Anga, Mr. Nick Cartledge, and Miss Natalie Douglas, bringing us all the intel on this coming weekend's entertainment lineup. As always, we do welcome your feedback and questions and invite you to join the conversation. Simply dial 1-800-534-8255 or 949-8037. Stay tuned for Talk Today following this brief commercial break.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
And welcome back to Talk Today. In case you're just tuning in for today's show, I'm your stand-in host, Mr. Raymond Singh, filling in for Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. We have in studio Mr. Glenn Ananga, Mr. Nick Cartledge, and Miss Natalie Douglas, here to share all the information on this, starting tonight and through the weekend, the Cayman Arts Festival. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ray.
Thank you. And so I did have the pleasure of attending the opening reception of the Sips and Sounds event with some local artists performing, kicked off the night.
That's
which
right.
was, unfortunately, we had to leave during the intermission, but it was a fantastic opening.
We thought it was a very successful start to the festival. And by the way, just want to thank Radio Cayman for having us on this
You're
afternoon.
most welcome as
Get
always.
that in there before I forget to say thank you. It was a wonderful start. Great audience. The local artists were extremely entertaining. They played extremely well. There was the Island Brass Quintet.
Correct, that's what it was, the Island
exactly. And it was also an opportunity for us to showcase some of the young students who are in some of our educational programs as well. So 3 very, very talented young trumpet players who are actually taught by the lead trumpeter in the Island Brass Quintet, Ezzard Miller. They did a phenomenal job. At least judging from the audience response to their performance at the beginning of the second half.
Sorry, I missed. I had to leave the intermission, so now I'm sorry I did.
But it was really great. It was Cameron, Hassani, as well as the third person was Dequan. There we go. Okay. So it was really wonderful. They did a trio at the end, and 2 of them did soloed individually as well. So that was a great start to the festival. Very much keeping on the theme of featuring local artists as well as international artists coming, whom we're going to meet today.
Yes.
And it was really wonderful to have such wonderful support from the general community. It's a great start for us, and it's a new product which we've got now in the Cayman Arts Festival, which is called Sips and Sounds. So people watch this space. You're going to hear some more Sips and Sounds events coming up right through the year. Right, so moving on from there, very quick sort of background about the festival. Started in 2004. Jennifer McAuliffe and myself are artistic directors of the festival, and we started it off, and it was a bit of an experiment which was in response to our first visit here to perform as a duo, and it was great. It was under another organisation called Cayman Classical Performances, and the response we got from our performance back in December 2001 was phenomenal. And Jennifer came up with this idea: the best way to respond to the feedback is to start a festival. And we didn't know where it was going to go. We didn't know where the funding would come for the festival. We just thought this is something the community wanted to have happen. And we were very passionate about performing. We were very passionate about education. And the workshops we did with the kids made us realize how much the island would benefit from something like this. So we came up with a model whereby you have international artists coming in who will do masterclasses and workshops and help to develop the talent that we have here, but also have this cross-fertilization between local artists living here and international artists coming here to perform. And that's kind of how you can sort of have a lasting impact. And it's really developed over the years to have a bigger branch on the educational front now. So we have an after-school program which is doing extremely well. We have over 140, 150 instruments that we own that we give to these talented kids in the government primary and secondary schools. And the idea of this is to give them a chance to develop their talent as long as they've been identified by their music teachers as passionate and talented and interested in developing to the fullest potential. So that's kind of how the festival really now sort of operates. We have our events, we showcase these students, people who have supported them over the years, get to see what progress they're making, and trust me, it's very humbling to see what you can achieve when a community comes together like this to support the development of our young people.
No doubt. And so 18 years ago, this is actually 2001. 18 years was...
We first performed here.
Was your first performance, and then so 2004. All right, so you're a young teenager as far as...
Yes, you're a young teenager, yes.
Still plenty more, more room to grow and expand your wings. And
so we're very excited to have these artists here for our extra Cayman Arts Festival, because initially it was every 2 years, and then after about the first 4 to 6 years they said, look, we need to have this every year. So we had a sort of an odd year in terms of not so much as many events, and so we now have this 2019 is our extra Cayman Arts Festival, but it actually has turned out to be quite a major event, and so we have 2 of our international events. We've got Nick Cartledge performing tonight with me. He's a wonderful flautist of international repute. And Natty Douglas, who's here in the studio with us, she's part of an amazing cabaret sort of group of singers who come together as part of the Mabel Mercier Foundation. And they come here, they're performing on Saturday, and this is just a phenomenal show they put on. They did this last year, and by popular demand, they're back. So you're going to hear a lot more about this, but we're just excited about what's going to happen over the next few days.
Fantastic. Well, on that note, let's meet Mr. Nick. Now,
hello. Just
for our listeners out there, if you've heard the commercial that's been airing for the Cayman Arts Festival, the background music actually is Nick's, one of his pieces.
Which I've just discovered.
Which he's just discovered. So hopefully we did not breaking the laws in the process of,
no, you're okay.
Of nicking his music. But so, Nick, tell us a bit about yourself, background, how long you've been playing the flute, and...
Well, so I've been playing the flute for about 35-ish years.
You're no novice. We've established that part now.
Yeah, so it's, I'm from the south of England.
Okay.
I live in Hampshire, which is just the west of London. And, I've been playing, professionally now since I was 20.
Okay.
And I've known Glenn since 1996.
Okay.
Yes, when we were in the same music competition together. And he was in the I was in the soloists round and in the soloist section, and he was in the group section. So he won the group section, and I was lucky enough to win the solo section. And although we've known each other all these years, we've never actually performed together until now. So it's,
there we go. First time. There we go.
Yeah, it's kind of, it really is an ambition realised, actually, for me. It's been fantastic working with Glenn. I've been lucky enough to be here a little bit longer because I have family on the island and friends. I come here quite often anyway for holidays and to see family. So
have you actually performed before in the Cayman Arts Festival?
No.
Okay, so no performance at all as part of it?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, fair enough.
The best I've done so far is I've practiced here.
Still not a bad place to do that either.
Well,
fair enough.
Yeah, so I came over on Saturday, and we've been rehearsing quite a lot since then.
Okay.
It's been really good.
Now, have you done much work as far as instructing kids in the past?
Yeah, I do a lot of teaching at home.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. I have currently, I think, 70 students at home. So
that's a lot of students. Fair enough.
Yes.
So what age of students are we talking about?
So the youngest would be 8. And fantastic little girl who's 8, who's just a star. And my oldest, I think, is 75. So
fair. You cover a lot of territory.
Yeah. I try and vary the teaching methods between them.
You may have to. Well, I'm sure the 8-year-old and the 75-year-old is probably not entirely different. But that
you can speak to a 75-year-old in a way that you can't speak to an 8-year-old.
Yeah, fair enough. That makes sense.
I have to give the 75-year-old a bit of getting her breath back time before she starts off. My teaching room's in the top floor of my house, and she needs like 10 minutes to just get her breath back.
I can imagine. I've worked with a lot of kids. I can imagine exactly what you're talking about. Do you get a chance to travel a lot with performing?
Yes, I do. I have done. I've now got a young family, so I don't do as much of that as I used to. But in the past I've done a lot of travelling around. Recently I've been to Russia, and which was quite interesting. So I got to Russia, and I found when I got there that I was required only to mime and not to play. So I actually travelled 2,500 miles to mime.
It's not a bad way to have a vacation, I'm not going to lie.
It was okay.
Yeah.
It was okay.
Well, as a performer, I can imagine it's probably a little disappointing to be told you're coming to perform, but you're going to stay quiet. But
well, it was. We weren't aware of the fact it was being televised, and they want full control.
They want full control, yes.
But the thing was that on the original track that I recorded, it was improvised. So I then had to learn my whole. And I was thinking at that time, goodness me, I wish I'd made this a little bit easier. If I'd known I was going to have to mime to this, I wouldn't have played as many notes. So I'm there in the hotel room, kind of I'm trying to work it out.
That's amazing.
That is actually pretty amazing, actually. And you're performing tonight?
Yes, I'm on tonight, Commander Bay Cinema.
Commander Bay Cinema.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. And now there's still tickets available for tonight's show.
Yes, there are more tickets still available, and I would strongly recommend that people get their tickets because he has put together the most phenomenal combination of pieces. Okay, and CaymanArtsFestival.com is the website if you want to get tickets. If you want to bother Maris, you can call him on 922-550 if you want. But he's in charge of all the tickets, and he will definitely make sure that you are not disappointed.
Fantastic. And tickets are, just to make sure I understand, US 40 for adults and US 15 for students?
That's right.
Okay.
That's correct.
And just to confirm, this is a live performance. Nick will not be miming tonight. So make sure we understand for all our listeners out there.
Well, at least I don't think I'm miming. I mean, they've still got time to drop the bomb, haven't they?
Fair enough. Now, I understand there's going to be some teaching elements going on with the Arts Festival, and that, Nick, you're going to be doing some instruction as well.
I've done some actually already.
You already done the instruction?
Tuesday I was at St Ignatius.
Okay.
Saw some lovely students there. About 30 flutists.
Flutist.
From different schools.
From different schools, all turned up, and it was lovely. Really good, really nice.
And given your experience with the 70 students that you have back in England right now, and seeing the 30 students here, obviously more contained in their age bracket, is there any comparison as far as the skill levels between our students and our performers here and what you would see back in home?
Yes, I think the skill levels here weigh up very favourably with the levels at home. Actually, there were some very talented kids there, and they're very receptive to new ideas and concepts, and they listened well, and heard the improvement immediately as well in some of them. So it was great.
He's such an inspiring teacher as well, so you forgot to say that. He was excellent with them.
That's fantastic. That's great. And that's fantastic, actually, that you're actually able to have this experience of being here in Cayman, where you have close ties with their friends and family. Now being able to perform with Glenn and then having the opportunity to actually teach some of our youngsters is
Yeah, and I just feel the ties are getting closer and closer now as well. As every time I come here, I think this is probably my 10th visit now.
Wow.
And every time I come here, I meet more and more lovely people and, make more and more acquaintances. So, it's been fantastic. And to see things from a slightly different perspective this time. Obviously, coming here to work is a different perspective than come here and sitting on 7 Mile Beach. So
yes, no, I can imagine. Now, Glenn, are you performing tonight as well? Is this your first time performing together?
Yes, we're performing together, and he's put together this amazing program. And most of the repertoire is completely unfamiliar to me, but I have enjoyed the journey of working on this very challenging music. It's great. I mean, very completely different styles, right from the beginning of the program to the end. Okay. And it's something in there for everyone. But I think he takes flute to its limits in the way he plays it. It's really phenomenal.
Okay.
So if you're looking for some real pyrotechnics tonight on the flute, you know where to be. Cayman Bay.
I've been involved in music for a long time. I'm trying to imagine the concept of pyrotechnics and flute, and I've never heard them in the same sentence. That's not an insult to the flute. No.
It's just, absolutely not. I think people have a kind of view of flute playing that's probably, it's earned in some respects that it's a pretty little delicate instrument that provides a little bit of colour in the orchestra, and I want to try and push it a little bit further and to show that it can be powerful and it can be intense and it can be emotional, and it's not all the time.
No, of course.
I'm not going to blow people's heads off all the time recital, but
I remember that episode of, was it America's Got Talent, where the violinist was trapezing from one end of the stage to the other, and that's not the direction we're looking to go when we say pyrotechnics.
I'm assuming not.
Okay.
Although I have been asked to be on a trapeze before.
While playing,
yeah. Sure.
And you declined.
I did decline, and I ended up. We made a compromise in the end that I was wearing a jumper with flashing lights on it instead.
The compromise between a trapeze was a flashing jumper.
Yeah, there's no health and safety involved in the flashing jumper. So.
He's also played with Liz Malkin, who's a resident flautist here. They're going to be doing a duet.
Fantastic player.
It's a delight to hear both of them together. I mean, just at least like one sound, just hearing the two of them. So they're playing a piece by Franz Doppler, which is just very well written for flute duet, and I'll be adding a few notes at the piano. But they are just a joy to listen to, you know. So really, that's one thing we're very thankful for her for joining forces with us as well.
And it's fantastic. And extra link is that she's the teacher of my nephew, who plays the flute as well. Whose flute I often borrow to practice on.
That's a great little actually add on to that story. Thank you for that. No, I appreciate that. On that note, though, we do have to take a quick commercial break. But a quick recap: Nick will be performing tonight at 6 p.m. at Cayman Bay. Show starts again at 6 p.m. Tickets are US $40 for adults and US $15 for students. Visit CaymanArtsFestival.com to purchase those tickets, or you can call Marius at
922-5550. Or also we'll have tickets at the door.
Or tickets will be at the door. Fantastic. On that note, let's take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll be meeting with Miss Natalie Douglas, a singer performing on Saturday. Be back with more Talk Today right after this.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Go Cocoa Nuts with Cocoa Fest at Pedro Castle. On February 9th from 12 to 6 p.m., indulge in all kind of coconut ting. There's coconut-inspired cooked food, treats, fresh coconut water, crafts, games, music, and watch our coconut plant demonstrations. Admission is only $5 and free for kids under 12. Proceeds from each entry fee benefit Meals on Wheels Cayman. So if you like coconut, come to Cocoa Fest. Pedro Castle, February 9th. For event details, check us out on Facebook. This event is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. We're good for you.
I love you.
Get your Valentine's roses from Rosie's Roses and receive 10% off fresh flowers ordered by February 13th and be entered to win a $100 gift certificate for Mother's Day bouquets. Order online at rosiesroses.ky. Call 922-5273 or visit Rosie's Roses, Rankin Plaza, Eastern Avenue.
Hi, I'm Dawn McLean Brady, President of the Cayman Islands Small Business Association, better known as CISPA. Small businesses drive Cayman's economy. As small business owners, we depend on government to create an environment where we, as entrepreneurs, can do what we do best, and that's to provide products and services that are valuable to our customers and, in turn, employ others. The cruise piers and cargo ports provide these opportunities. Encourage our government to build a port and let the Caymanian entrepreneurial spirit shine. Support the port, support our tourism.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
And welcome back to Talk Today. In case you're just tuning in, we have the Cayman Arts Festival in studio. We've been hearing we just heard about Mr. Nick Cartledge's upcoming performance tonight at Cayman Bay. And now we're going to turn the show over to Miss Natalie Douglas. Good afternoon, Miss Natalie.
Well, hello there.
How are you?
I'm great. I made it here. It took a while.
Where were you coming from?
Coming from JFK, and there was a plane problem yesterday. And long story short, 30 hours later, I'm here.
Welcome. Now,
I just got from the airport. Yeah.
From the airport here?
Uh-huh.
Love that. It's great. Very rarely can that really happen, right? But in Cayman, with the airport being a few minutes away,
it actually happens a lot.
I can imagine.
We were just talking about it before the show. Just running on stage, having missed sound check because of travel problems, and you just walk out and play,
That's what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
In your performance. No matter what, the show must go on.
Exactly.
Now, where is home originally for you?
I live in New York. That's my home base, but I'm originally from Los Angeles.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And first time in Cayman? Oh, no, you were here in Cayman.
This is actually my third time. I was here once on a cruise ship. I was working for Atlantis Events, and we didn't spend much time here. But then last year, I was lucky enough to come to Cayman Arts Festival, and that was my first year doing that, and it was so much fun. We had a brilliant time and met some great kids in the masterclass. The masterclass is the day before the performance. In this case, it's tomorrow at 1:30. Performance is Saturday night. And last year, I think it was about 6 kids. We have 5-6 kids, all locals. All fantastic, like truly gifted. So much fun to work with them. I teach a lot. I teach a lot when I travel, but it was just such fun to work with kids who were so enthusiastic and prepared and talented. And one of them, Jaden Hannah, surprised the heck out of us. I mean, they were all good. She was just otherworldly. And Katie Sullivan, who is the artistic director of the Mabel Mercer Foundation, made the decision to invite Jaden to be in the concert on Saturday night. So in addition to the New Yorkers, those of us who had come down, I think there were 4 of us last year, 5 of us, we ended the concert with Jaden, this brilliant local. And then KT invited her to make her debut in New York at Jazz at Lincoln Center on Broadway for the October Cabaret Convention, which is an annual event. I think this year is the 33rd year, maybe, of performers, international performers, mainly New York-based performers, all singing programs for like 4 or 5 days. And Jaden appeared on opening night last year with one of our students from Durango, Colorado, a similar project out there, and she just knocked everybody dead. It was great.
Hold on, this is a Caymanian student who
Yes.
actually opened up on Broadway?
Yes, she. The Mabel Mercer Foundation.
How do I not know this already? I'm a little caught off guard.
The Mabel Mercer Foundation sponsored Jaden to come. It's one of
amazing.
the outreach programs. KT's just done amazing work in expanding sort of the database, if you will, of young people who love this music and love this singing, and giving them opportunities to both study and learn from each other and perform, because as we all know, you really get to learn about it when you're doing it, Class is important and foundation is, all, but you really learn how to do it when you're doing it. So there's always this performance aspect, and it's great. We're so happy for her and proud of her.
Just a quick side note before we actually get back to your upcoming, what you're going to be doing here on Saturday. Radio Cayman has sponsored the Cayman Arts Festival since inception, and one of the reasons why it has continued to throw support behind the event is because of the work it does with students, and how the whole repertoire has grown to, and how it's evolved over the past 14 years into a young teenager, as we said. But when we talk about a student who's actually had an opportunity to, just last year, be invited into the Cayman Arts Festival from a masterclass teaching event, and then 6 months later step onto a stage in Broadway, just 6 months ago. And this is an amazing, I guess, I'm pretty sure everyone in Radio Cayman right now is hearing the show, and it's a little warming at the heart to actually hear that entire story. And we'll have to have Jaden on have we had Jaden on the show? And I'm a little caught off guard by this.
I don't know.
Has Jaden been on the show? She's probably been on Youth Flex and things like that. But she hasn't been in this capacity as perhaps winner of this opportunity to go there.
I'd love to hear the story of a young student who actually had a chance to open up on Broadway. That's just an amazing story. Little Cayman is a tiny place to step onto a stage in Broadway.
But for a tiny place, there are a lot of talented people
That's
here.
great.
A lot of people who care about the arts and want to be both patron and performer. And, you know, we were so impressed last year when we met everybody and were treated so well and had such a great time. I think we had 400, 450 or something.
It was sold out, yes.
It was sold out. You know, for this concert, there were 5 of us who came down and each did songs. And the KT and I did the teaching on the day before. And it was just joyous. Really wonderful opportunity.
That's fantastic. Now you're performing on Saturday.
Right. There are 3 different artists who have come down from New York, and then KT, John Weber, and myself, who were here last year. And we'll put a concert together, something special that we create just for you guys.
Can we get it
special?
Can we have a little preview of what? You don't have to give us too much details. You can just say we're going to be doing this, this, and this.
Well, I know, for example, one of the people coming down this year is a man named Danny Bacher, and he sings and plays the trumpet. So I imagine at least one of his numbers will feature that.
Wow. Okay.
And Marissa Mulder, who's one of the other performers, has just been she has both a Tom Waits tribute show, but also she has a Marilyn Monroe show that she does. So I don't know what she's going to bring, and I'm sure she's working on something new. And I have just finished a 10-month run of tribute shows. I tribute a different artist every month. We did 4 months in 2017, we did 6 months 2018, and now we've booked 8 months in 2019. And so I have a Sammy Davis Jr. show, a Nina Simone show, a Barbra Streisand show, a Cher show, a Dolly Parton show, Elvis, Dame Shirley Bassey. So I don't know which thing I'm going to bring, but something.
So if we come on Saturday, we're going to be treated to one of those tributes.
No. Probably I will 4 or 5 songs, and I don't know which one I'll pick. I mean, it could be.
Can I put the pressure on you while we're live on the radio to do an Elvis?
To do an Elvis. I could do one of the tunes. Probably. We'll see. I mean, I have to see what we get together and we talk about building the show and we talk about the shape of it and who's on when. And so the songs we choose have to do with creating a whole arc, Yeah. So it'll depend. And just for the record, I am not an impressionist. Though I have a friend who does that brilliantly, Christina Bianco. Happy birthday. But no, I try to share with the audience why these performers are singular and why they matter to me, both in terms of their artistry and often in terms of their activism and their work in education, in lending a hand to young artists coming up. I try to bring all of that to it. So we'll see. I don't know what we're going to have, but I will take your Elvis under advisement.
Well, we have 3 minutes left in the show. If you want to throw that into this segment, listen, no one here is going to stop you.
No, I seriously just got off a plane after 30 hours. I'm not normally a bass. Today I think I would be.
It happens. Don't worry. We completely understand. You just got off a long flight, 30 hours of traveling. We'll let you off this time.
Thank you so much, Ray.
Next year, though, if you come back, though.
I will be ready. Next year.
Excuse or no excuse. Next year we'll go on.
Next year, if I have to, I'll warm up on the plane. It'll annoy everyone, but...
Fantastic. Although on that note, we're getting pretty close to our next commercial break. So, gentlemen, tell us a bit more about how people can get tickets for the shows and any other events associated with the Cayman Arts Festival. I know we have a fringe event going on tomorrow evening as well.
Yeah, we sell tickets online, CaymanArtsFestival.com.
Okay.
Who wants to get tickets will go there, and we didn't have problems. Everybody bought tickets, so it seems to be easy. So tonight we have at Camana Bay Cinema.
Tonight's Camana Bay?
Yes, at 6 o'clock. We still have tickets available. Tomorrow we have a fringe event where we'll expose our Cayman Arts Festival after-school program in collaboration with another after-school program, Jubilate, at 5:30, Cayman Islands Baptist Church on Pedro Castle Road.
Okay. And there's no charge for that event?
No, that's free of charge. That's free of charge. And on Saturday, February 9th, 6:30, Marriott Ballroom Hotel. The event is called That's Entertainment. Yes. And we still have some tickets, so you kind of have to hurry up. Usually this event is sold out, and I will get a lot of phone calls for tickets after that, and I have to turn off the phone. Because
yes, no, of course, I can imagine. Saturday event.
This is what we have for this week, and this is my part because I work a lot with them to put together the financial part. I would like to thank to our sponsors.
Please.
I want to name them because without them we can't do this.
No, of course.
We have Butterfield, Walkers, and Island Heritage as major sponsors. Butterfield and Island Heritage, they are the sponsors of the Saturday event, the cabaret event. Then we have Radio Cayman. Yes, thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
CIBC Bank and Trust Company, Cayman National. We have High Impact Media. We have Foster's. We have Richard and Roche Addlestone, and we have Jubilate, the program itself.
The program itself.
Thank you so much, and without them, I repeat, it was not possible to have this festival.
No, thank you for giving them a shout out. Big thank you to all those sponsors who have come on board to support this event. Quick reminder, we have Mr. Nick's flute performance tonight. He's performing with Mr. Glenn Ananga tonight at Camana Bay. And Saturday, you can hear the Elvis Presley tribute. Just kidding. We don't know what it's going to be yet, but here's hoping. Here's hoping. With Miss Natalie Douglas. Thank you again, and all the best with the performances.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
On that note, we'll take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll be hearing from Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks, who has arrived and will be hosting the rest of Talk Today. Be back with you right after this.
Hey, Cayman Massive, this is yours truly, Mikey Spice. I'm going to be in your town at the Mango Tree on Friday, February the 8th. Yes, 2019. You heard it right. On Friday, February 8th, 2019 at the Mango Tree. Don't miss it. It's going to be a good show. I am myself. That's the song you've been waiting for. Come out and see it. Live. I am myself.
Save time, don't stand in line. You can apply for or renew your trade and business license online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just visit dci.gov.ky and click on the Trade and Business Online application link. Now, you don't need to stand in line, take time out of your busy schedule or try to find parking. You can apply for your trade and business license online. Visit dci.gov.ky today and save time for running your business.
British Caymanian Insurance is the proud sponsor of Radio Cayman's Noon News. British Caymanian Insurance, protecting you against loss of your home or property in case of accident liability. British Caymanian, protection, security like no other. Call them today at 949-8699 for more information.
Headlines. With the latest headlines.
Headlines.
All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Headlines.
Turning to international news. Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio Cayman News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, and thank you so much for joining us. Do you notice the difference in the voice? A strong West Bayer, and joining me next is equally, and some would say even stronger, North Sider. What do you think, Mr. Miller?
Well, it depends on who you talk to, but I like to be the peacemaker, you know?
The peacemaker.
So we and West Bears get along really good. Really
Fellas say he does like peace.
If they the West Bears get upset with me, I tell them, I got West, I'm at least a quarter West Bear.
Quarter West Bear. Boy. You see, I love when people claim the heritage.
Yeah, my grandmother, you know, was a Hennings from down there, so there was a lot of crossing knocked in, a lot of romance across that North Sound, man.
Yeah, we might even be family. I need to check it out.
Never know.
Well, a special thanks to Raymond Singh, my colleague, for filling in with us, and he had the fun, with entertainers, and I don't know, Mr. Miller.
Then they put you in a hot seat now to ask me the tough questions, boy. I tell you.
Well, I must share with you. I'm glad that it's you because I know you're so willing to answer the tough questions.
Well, if I can, I'll tell you I don't know. I'm not ashamed to tell you that either. But I can also tell I can try find out.
Well, I must share with you, and we are indeed. This is the segment of Talk Today where we host the opposition. We have the honour of being able to host the Honourable Ezzard Miller as the leader of the opposition. So thank you again for sharing with us. I had a question put to McGinn this morning, and I'm thinking to myself, now this is getting kind of regular. These people must believe these talk shows are,
problem solvers, man.
Is that what it is?
Yep.
No, I say that it's so great. So a fellow asked, and just for the record, which certainly you're joining me to start tomorrow morning for that, I've seen it. It's something that I don't want to say affects me, but something I'm aware of. You're traveling the roads. I happen to have to, because presumably, unless I go by boat, that's the only way in and out of West Bay now. That one road, no matter there's two lanes. But it seems, and as the fellow asked the question, I can't and I won't try to repeat it in the tone and the level of frustration. I don't want to dump it in your plate. I haven't had a chance to send an email over to the NRA. But if I could ask, he has shared that it seems that maybe it's because of this festival thing coming up next week over the Kabuki site or what it is. But the people who maintain that road, when compared to the NRA, they put cones and block two lanes of traffic, one going in one direction and one coming in the opposite direction, as they're in the center where the landscaping is. And safety is important. But it's every day, any day, all day long. And he was saying, I don't know whether it's going to be a Monday or if it's going to be a Friday.
Well, you see, you expect people to be reasonable and have some consideration of the traveling public. No, they definitely shouldn't do that during the peak traffic hours. When from West Bay, I would probably say 7 to 9 and 4 to 6. And just allow people to get by.
Yeah. Well,
but
Well, someone else had mentioned it before, and I don't think I was dismissive, but I thought, people are wearing their bright-coloured vests so that they're identifiable as they're in the roads. But one individual shared, and as a result of that, I started to pay attention, because sometimes you're driving and you can, you just take it for granted. He said that when the guys from Public Works, now whether that's Public Works or NRA, we probably use the two, one the same, they're in the middle, they seem to do a section that is a different section, but they're in the middle, they're doing their thing, and the roads aren't blocked.
Well, they shouldn't need to block the road if they're working in the medium, because they should be contained by the
Right.
Well, the other thing is, I've always wondered every time I go down where are the sidewalks.
They're on order, sir. They're on order.
They're on order. Well, they take a long time to come.
But
one wonders why there aren't sidewalks on those highways.
Well,
are they going now to require people who build, and if you build residential, you don't have to put in sidewalks? I got a similar problem in Rumpoint where they're saying that, sidewalks, I think the CPA takes the view that they can only demand sidewalks from commercial activities, right? And development. But when you put up 5 or 6 houses on 2 lots of land and they are for rent, my argument, that's commercial. Right? And if you bring in, because you're going to put 5, 6, 8, 10 visitors in these houses when you rent them out, because they're a couple $1,000s a night, then there's going to be substantial foot traffic. So,
well, sidewalks, I think, not only add to the aesthetic but to the safety as well. But again,
one of the other things that I think that, and I'm currently looking at the development and planning law and its regulations, and I've had reason quite recently to delve into the roads law and the NRA law and the planning regulations because of the issues that we were having with roads in the Cayman area, which I'm happy to say we worked it all out. Everybody has come to the agreement that what the NRA proposes to do, which is to build a road to its full 30-foot width, and they accept responsibility for removing the encroachments. But even then, when they put up fences along the side of the road, or if they're using hedges, the hedge shouldn't be allowed to grow on to the 30-foot, even the verges that are there, So one of the things that I think the government needs to give consideration to is to have a step back from the roadway, right? For fences and hedges and stuff, so that people can have a hedge, they can keep it nicely trimmed, they can get the full growth of the plants that they use, but it's not infringing onto the highway. And there should be a requirement of whether it's a 4-foot setback or a 3-foot setback or whatever throughout the island.
Yeah.
You know?
So the road verge, then the sidewalk, so to speak, so that you have, yeah.
Yeah, you see, you know, in commercial areas, what you have is you have the 30-foot road, right? And then you have a 3-foot or a 4-foot sidewalk on each side of that, right? And then anything that you want to build has to be behind the sidewalk.
Right.
So what I'm saying is that I think there need to be a standard throughout the island that anywhere you want to put up hedges or thing, and I believe we changed the law a couple of years ago to say that in a fence, because you know there's a rule that says if the fence is not 4 feet, you don't need planning permission.
Yeah, 3 feet is the height, and you go planning for 4, but you can't go unless you're
right.
Yeah.
But I think we changed the law to say any fence that fronts on the road has to have planning permission, regardless of the height.
Okay.
And I think that we need to insist there that our planning regulations say that there is a 4-foot step back from there.
Yeah.
So that in the future, if you want to put a sidewalk, you don't have to interfere with the wall, etc., etc.
Yes,
but there is still room for people to walk without having to duck from bushes and, you know.
Yeah, man. Well, we are speaking to Honourable Ezzard Miller. Sir, we do have a caller online. As we go to our phone, say good afternoon and welcome. You want to talk today?
Good afternoon, and good afternoon, Mr. Miller.
Good afternoon,
ma'am.
Hi, Sterling.
Hey.
Actually, I just turned the radio on, but I'm so glad Mr. Miller's there. Mr. Miller, I need your help.
Okay.
Can you, and I hope that the environmental health is listening, or you can take a message to them for me. Tell them that we, the people of these islands, need to know when are they going to change a shift back to this 6 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock. This 2 o'clock morning garbage pickup, and it's running up until 6 o'clock when I'm leaving home in the morning in Newlands. This is ridiculous. We want our garbage pickup. I really appreciate it being picked up. But why do we have to be disturbed from 2 o'clock in the morning up until 6 o'clock when I'm leaving the Newlands area to go to work? Just something need to be done. We should not have to pay the price for what's happening at the what's the place called again now? Environmental health. We the people shouldn't have to pay the price to lose our sleep because of the negligence of having proper garbage pickup in this island. This thing been going on almost over 2 years or within 2 years. Something need to be done, Mr. Miller. I'm tired of being disturbed in the morning, 2 o'clock.
Okay, I'll contact the ministry or the Department of Environmental Health and see what I can arrange. But quite frankly, the garbage truck shouldn't be making enough noise to disturb and wake you to sleep. So they may need to put new exhaust systems or whatever they need. And these people that have driving the trucks don't need to be boom, 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 making noise just to wake people up.
And they got their flasher on. And Mr. Miller, you know what? The guys are picking the garbage up in the back of the truck. They don't have no proper lighting on them or no vest show, reflecting light vest on them out there in the morning time.
They're supposed to have on gloves and face masks too.
They don't got nothing like that on there when they're picking up that garbage. They don't even know when they put their hand into it. 2 o'clock in the morning, it is still dark. And we got to check our guys as well too. Come on, Mr. Seymour, get this thing rolling. I thank you so much, Mr. Ezzard. Have a great day.
All right, thank you for sharing as well. And now, challenges, Mr. Miller.
Well, I mean, but people have a right to complain. I mean, I shouldn't be able to hear the garbage truck a quarter mile from my house. Now, that is the driver's fault, or the mechanic, or all two.
Right.
They should be able to come and understand that my house is 500 feet from the road, right? But I can hear it coming down the Queens Highway, right? And that shouldn't be. Because they don't need to be racing up the engines and all this kind of stuff. None of that is necessary. And the people who, their supervisors, need to tell them that they don't need to make all this noise in the community. Because most people have, if you, and the other thing is that I've been trying to get done for years now, is just put in the newspaper every Friday, right, what the schedule of picking up the garbage is in all the communities, right, so that people know and they can put their garbage out the night before. If you see, they won't publish the schedule because they never know when they're not going to come or not come, right? So that people know, and most people put, you don't need, in other words, what I'm saying is, the garbage driver don't need to make noise with the truck to alert people down the road that he come in, so they can so they can run out to the road with the garbage.
Yes, so at the end of the day, Mr. Miller, I would get in trouble with saying the schedule for the garbage collection, like the LA meetings, huh? But I won't do that.
well, we've just been notified yesterday that we're meeting on the 13th of March. So,
all right, well, maybe get a chance to maybe talk
probably
more.
Another 3-day session.
When we come back, we continue discussion with Honourable Ezzard Miller. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
The Royal Cayman Islands Police Service says it has put together a comprehensive plan for next weekend's Kaboom Music and Entertainment Festival. Police officials held a press conference earlier today at headquarters to reveal how they plan to manage traffic flow for the two-day event, which is expected to bring in an estimated 10,000 people per day. In news elsewhere, British Prime Minister Theresa May and EU Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker sparred on Thursday during robust talks on the UK's Brexit plans and agreed to hold more negotiations that could push the ceiling of any deal to within a month of Britain's scheduled departure. The two leaders agreed to meet for more talks before the end of February to take stock of these discussions, a joint statement said. 2 years ago, May set Brexit Day as March 29th, and originally plans were to have a deal in place 6 months ahead of time. As emergency teams worked around the clock in search of any more survivors trapped in the rubble of an 8-story apartment building in Istanbul, its collapse put the spotlight on illegal construction and raised alarms over the scope of possible destruction in the event that a larger earthquake could hit the city. Search teams recovered 3 more bodies from the rubble on Thursday, raising the death toll from Wednesday's collapse to 6. 13 people were pulled out of the debris with injuries. Authorities have not disclosed how many people remain unaccounted for. The building had 14 apartments with 43 people registered as residents. Those are your latest updates here on Radio Cayman. I'm Shanda Gallego.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
One TradeX knows there's more than one way to invest. One TradeX is the Cayman Islands' only fully licensed online broker-dealer, offering discount trading services to individual investors and traders, hedge fund managers, and family offices. One TradeX has the most competitive online trading prices of any offshore broker worldwide, with no custody or management fees, free demonstration accounts, and no charge to open an account with a $5,000 minimum deposit. Trade stocks, options, futures, bonds, and Forex. Learn more and open your free demo account today at OneTradeX.com. OneTradeX, the Cayman Islands' #1 choice for online brokerage. OneTradeX is licensed to conduct securities investment business by the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority.
From happy beginnings to happy ever after.
BritK protects your lifestyle with the best insurance cover at the best possible price.
Health insurance with far-reaching benefits.
95% of claims settled in 5 days.
Low-cost life insurance.
And investments.
Security in retirement.
With a custodian pension plan.
For happy beginnings and a happy ever after.
Visit BritK.ky or call 949-8699.
BritK, where people come first.
Get your car washed with Diamond Auto Care. $20 car wash special. $30 for SUVs. Interior and exterior. Call 928-7336. Diamond Auto Care will leave your car with a sparkle and shine. Only $20. Call 928-7336.
Crifta Games 2019 is coming to Cayman April 20th through 22nd. The Crifta Organizing Committee will be holding a volunteer drive on Thursday, February 7th at the CIFEC Hall from 5 until 7 p.m. Learn about these iconic games and the various areas that you can serve as a volunteer and ambassador. Positions range from ushers to translators, liaison officers, and many more. For more information, visit CaymanCrifta2019.ky.
CUC advises participants in the Green Iguana Culling Program to exercise extreme caution around the CUC's poles and power lines, especially when extracting iguanas from trees or branches that are in close proximity to poles and power lines. Participants should keep all objects such as poles, sticks, or hooks away from any CUC equipment to avoid any electrical contact. For further information, please contact our customer service team at 949-5200 or via email at service@cuc.ky.
Did you know that recycling collection containers are located island-wide in Grand Cayman? The Department of Environmental Health's program is an integral part of DEH's waste management responsibility in the Cayman Islands. Start your recycling program at home today. Put your cardboard items in appropriate DEH recycling containers at all Foster's supermarkets, Kirk Market, or Hurley's Grand Harbor. Help keep Cayman clean. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. For more information about recycling, go to www.deh.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, as we started the show, thanks to Raymond Singh for setting us up, with discussion on the Cayman Arts Festival, and especially the opportunity now to speak to Honourable Ezzard Miller as the leader of the opposition. Hey, thanks very much for sharing with us. I don't know. I think we all in this country like politics and politicians. What do you think, Mr. Miller?
Well, I wouldn't say that you like the politicians, but you endure them, and it's always it's a very convenient group of people to blame for everything that happens in Cayman.
Okay.
Right? And we somehow are supposed to have this magic wand, right?
Yep.
We just wave it in a certain day and say a certain prayer, and and everything happens.
Yeah.
But listen, you invite yourself to be a part of this fraternity. It's something you put yourself in. So don't complain when you get in and it's not the bed of roses you thought it was, and the great economic miracle that you think it is. It's a worthy profession. It's a rewarding profession as long as you're not looking for individual rewards.
Yeah.
But I tell everybody that I went into politics in 1980. It was my first entrance into it. I was doing exceptionally well financially, and I paid a high economic price because the way my parents raised me, when it comes to my integrity and my and honesty, to me goes a little bit beyond stealing money, right? I could not. I was very big in the medical business and doing exceptionally well, but when I became Minister of Health, in fact, I started from the 6 months before I became Minister of Health, when I understood from my colleagues that I would be one of those who would replace, because remember, I was supporting the government of Mr. Benson, Sir Vassell, Captain Charles, and Mr. Norman. And we knew that both Captain Charles and Sir Vassell were retiring. And it was agreed that I would be one of the two new cabinet members. So I divested myself of all of my medical business interests, because if I was going in what's called cabinet now at that time, I believe I had to be honest with myself and divest myself of all procurement interests, because I knew that there was a lot of things that I needed to do in the healthcare system to bring it up to speed and modernize it. So I divested myself of it because I thought that was the right thing to do. And it was a heavy economic price to pay. If I had stayed out of politics and stayed in the medical business, I wouldn't, I would be well off today, right? I might have fulfilled my retirement plan, was going to Hong Kong and buy a 60-foot Charlie boat and bringing it back to Cayman, over a 3-year period, right?
Oh,
But the learning curve, right? And every now and again, somebody shows you some special gratitude for something you have done. And that makes it all worth it. So
the greater good.
The opportunity to influence the development of your country, the opportunity to be in the room making the decisions that are going to affect generations to come is a heavy load.
Yes, sir.
It's not things that you should take lightly or flippantly and use easy, mean, minor, more, which seems to be a part of what's going on now. You take the rule of thumb. But the opportunity to serve, and you have to understand that that's what it is.
Right.
And you're serving at the pleasure of the people who elected you,
well,
which is why I subscribe to my mantra of participatory democracy.
I always enjoy when you mention that. I want to ask you more about it with the view specifically to encourage more young Caymanians to get involved with that process. But we do have a caller joining us as we go to our phones. Honorable Ezzard Miller is our guest. Good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Johnny. Old Frank Christian. Mr. Miller.
Afternoon, sir. Afternoon.
Mr. Miller, I've been talking a lot about Cuba and Bentley lately, but the reason why is not really about Cuba or America, because Cayman is now undergoing the kind of thing Cuba had before the revolution.
How so? How so?
And, well, right, okay, look at America. I didn't get to fit the American side yesterday. But America is a land ruled by the rich. Right?
But is that the case in most places?
No, not that way. No, not good.
So show me where the poor people rule the country.
No, let me finish what I'm saying first.
Okay, well, I don't want to... Okay, you go ahead.
No, I'm saying direct facts, because everything I say is from news items, the public, or from the words of Jesus himself. Right? But look at the people. Okay, Jesus said his commandment is love one another. Right? America, 20% of the war veterans people living on the street are war veterans.
Is that a published statistic? Because I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay,
no,
okay.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to be dismissive nor disrespectful, but you were talking about Cuba and Cayman, and you were...
right between Cuba and America to see the effects of Cuba after the revolution. Right? Before, Cubans had no rights. They get taxi drivers or prostituted pimps. Right? Now you don't find those big businesses coming into Cuba and bringing in those people. No way. That is Cubans working there. Right? And
you lost your train of thought. Yeah.
No.
Well, you lost people a while ago too.
Cayman. No. In Cayman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look at what's happening here. We have these rich people, big investors thing. They're running up the prices of land. They're building these apartments that regular Caymanian cannot afford. And if you pay rent, you have choices in paying rent and buy food. And then the food is so high. It's not like before when a man could go out and work, take his family. The man and his wife had to be taken there working, which leaves the children to be raised by outside influences. And you see a lot of things going on now. You check who raised those children. It was not their parents, some foreign national. And they're adopting the ways of these foreign nationals. Right? And right now it's causing a lot of dissent in the young people in Cayman. And you check around the world in China, United States, whatever. When you see the young people, the college students coming up, that is a sign that they're going to have their way and have it done. Right?
So what is your word of caution to us then? What's that counsel?
They need to change. Okay, we're not enforcing the laws of immigration that we have here. The rich are allowed to come in, which I hope will change so now, for these people. They're not, I mean, in $10 minimum wage, you can't hardly live off of that even.
All right, fair enough, man. Thanks for sharing with that. And Mr. Miller, just not necessarily an expectation for you to answer.
Mr. Miller's on it.
All right, well, thank you, sir, for sharing.
Well, there are some minor similarities of how Cayman is developing to how Cuba developed before the revolution, where there was a lot of external ownership and a lot of external thing. What we don't have is the dictatorships. We still have a democracy in Cayman, and the government you get is the government you vote for. End of story, right? There's nobody in Cayman other than the governor who is appointed by somebody else. But even him now, on our 2009 Constitution, has a limited role in our local operation of the country. But in terms of the nationals feeling sidelined and disenfranchised and not being given the opportunity, that is becoming more and more obvious and a bigger concern as it is. There's a lot of people who tell me I shouldn't use the word revolution, but it is educated people who cause revolutions in country. And my fear is that if we do not, as a government, provide the opportunity for people to qualify for a lot of these positions that are now occupied by non-Caymanians, and that Caymanians coming back from school overseas where they have competed and gotten their academic qualifications, we have to find a way to make sure that they get into the system. And I'm not talking about getting in the system at the top. I'm talking about getting in the system, but there's a clear path for you to get up. Now we know that all workplaces it's a pyramid type thing, and the nearer you get to the top, the less opportunity there is. But the problem that I find in talking to the young educated Caymanians is they really don't believe they're getting a fair shot at the Cayman miracle, particularly in the two major industries, i.e. tourism and the financial industry.
Right.
It's improving, but I think we need to do a lot more.
I want to ask you about that, but the caller shares something that jogged my memory a few weeks back. Someone had asked the question. If I remember correctly, it was phrased in that people on a work permit, so a person is working in the financial sector, for instance, that work permit holder, is that person allowed to get a work permit for a domestic helper, for instance? And if so, was that always the case, or that's been a recent?
No, that it used to be that it was very difficult for ordinary people, bank managers and people who were having the salary, right, to get work permits and bring in their own domestic staff. There seems to have been some liberalization of that, which gives people room for concern, because and what happens then, the Caymanians don't have the access, and many of them are not getting to the salary level where they can afford it, right? And you know what I mean? Your career advancement and your career development is hard work, right?
Yeah.
It takes time, it takes dedication, it takes application. But we got to level the playing field. You can't have a judgment on performance that is unequal to Caymanians. Give an example. The average accountant who comes here as an accountant or a manager has no external responsibilities, no family commitments, etc., can work till 8, 9 o'clock every night, right? It's a lot more difficult for a Caymanian to do that, because even if they're not yet, even if they're still single, they may have responsibilities to their parents or grandparents that they have to look after them and stuff like that. So we need to provide within our labour legislation that balancing act, so that Caymanians are not punished because they are unable. And I tell everybody, listen, in any organisation, if you're working 10, 12, 14 hours a day, right, one of two things: you haven't done anything for the first 7 hours, or you need help. Because I judge by myself. And I can tell you, even in my young days, once I put in 8 hours of solid work, it's hard to get beyond that, you know. So when these people tell me, well, you know, he was here till 10 o'clock last night, you know, they play this game, they look out to see which office light is on because they won't be the last one leaving. Not that they're doing anything, right?
That happens, huh?
Yeah.
All right. So, if we could ask of you, right? I think the great honor and privilege of being able to sit with young Caymanians who are either at school, you know, some not yet university level, so pre-university level, some in university, and talking about career opportunities, potentially, you know, what they'll be looking at. And a few of them have expressed some concerns. And one, you know, is graduated, is now coming back, and said, you know, I don't expect to start at the top. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. Yes, I may have a particular academic qualification, even working towards a professional designation. But what she expressed was expressed by others before, and you could see it sort of reflected in the eyes of others. They come in with, say, college education. It may be a master's, maybe working towards some sort of qualification. And the level of sort of salary and whatever else that is coming into the office is just entry level or a little bit above. And they were thinking, well, shouldn't there be some recognition, reward, motivation, incentive, you know, for having invested this time and money in this education, and then as opposed to the entry level job. Now, one lady, she put it this way: it isn't like you're in an industry or in a country where there's millions and tens of millions, and for that one job you're competing in that sense, or is it? What made it perhaps striking for her was that when she looked at her counterparts who are coming from, you know, different industrialized nations with the same or similar experience, some not even the extent, they're not being offered entry level. They still need to gain experience. They still need to get the other things, and yet because they're coming from there, they're valued more, paid more. Oh.
Well, again, those are this part. You remember a couple of years ago, somebody managed to get in immigration to give you all the salaries of the certain positions and certain forms here, and they went to court to get a gag order put on it, right?
Right.
Because when you looked at that, there were even people, it was obvious that there were people in the organization who had the same title, but the salaries may vary $15,000 to $20,000 depending on your country of origin, right? And again, you know, we need to have some kind of stabilizing influence. The whole business planning, as an immigration and labor development tool, was a good idea, but it wasn't implemented to its fullest.
Okay.
Because again, one of the things that I thought they should have put in that, right, was the competencies for a position, right?
Yeah, okay.
And that didn't vary, right? You either had it or you didn't have it.
Yeah.
But any young Caymanian coming back from college, and business staffing plan should be public, just like you should have to display that,
right,
just like your business license. Should be able to go to Form A, right, and says, I'd like to look at your business plan. To look at the business plan. Because right now, if they go in and say, I'm looking at a job, do you have any? The answer is no. We don't have any vacancies, which is true, because they have work permits, right? But remember the overriding intent of the Caymanian protection law and the immigration law is that every job in the Cayman Island belongs to Caymanian unless, and there's a series of things that unless follows, i.e. you can't find a Caymanian. How do you demonstrate that you couldn't find a Caymanian? You have to put ads in the paper, etc., 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 right? So while it is true they don't have any vacancies, if the person could then look at the business staffing plan and says, okay, well, Tom Jones is an accountant here. I would like to be an accountant here. Their work permit is expiring in May, right? Okay, so what are his competencies? Well, he has CPA. I have a CPA. He has a bachelor's degree in accounting. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting. I might even have a master's because most CPA licenses now require a master's, right? But he might not have a master's because he might have had his before, right? He has 10 years experience. I don't have that, right? But what else right? Could I add to this list of competencies that would make me a better bargain for this company to hire me without the 10 years experience? They might say, well, okay, he doesn't have Microsoft because you're going to be using Excel, you're going to be using, So let me go in the 3 months that is left on his permit. Let me go and get my Microsoft qualifications, right? And then you come back and you hand in an application. I'm applying to business staff position number so-and-so, held by so-and-so. These are the competencies. These are the competencies I have. I would like an interview for the job. When he leaves, you see? Because unless you have that kind of direct comparison, because these decisions need to be a lot more objective, and the Caymanian needs to know what the objectives are.
But you just said it, the objective in terms of nation building, population growth, those things. That sounds logical, reasonable, something that you can measure because it's objective. It's not this other stuff. But respectfully, Mr. Miller, we've heard people who are applying for retail staff. Someone sent me an ad. I'll pull it up in a second and show you for a job. 20 years experience, this, that, and the next thing. And when you look at the pay, it's a few dollars an hour. Now, I don't know what you're doing, but if you have that low pay and you're looking for that amount of years of experience, there seems to be a disconnect.
I had one the other day bragged to me that the person he had a work permit for, to Paul Bush and Rick Lees, had a master's degree in horticulture. So he said, he put in Bush and Rick Lees, but in the telecom, we were overqualified. So it is, what we need is, we need a government that will sit down with the industry, determine what is needed for the industry to perform at the highest levels. We're always going to have some foreign import because we can't produce enough Caymanians to do all the work, right? But when we do produce a Caymanian, right, the government has to have in place the mechanism that ensures that Cayman, one, gets an entry-level job, two, has a career path, so that in 5 years, right, if their competencies for an account manager, right, is 5 years experience with the company on the job, right, then when the Cayman get to 5 years, he should get the manager's job. You can't have a situation where we're bringing in people and in 2 years in the company, right, they made managers, but Caymanians, 7 years, good performance, etc., has all the competencies, right? And the Caymanian should be able to track his career path, and the government should be able to go into these, through the, whatever this farm works, I got to know, into these companies and says, okay, you have a business staffing plan, you have, we're supposed to give 5 scholarships, right? Where are they? Who did you give them to? What are they studying? Right? And if they haven't done it, well, you need to write a check for the government standard is 20,000. You haven't given 5 for a year, right? That's 100,000. Real and truly, you should have been doing this for the last 3 years. So we need a check for 300,000, and the government put that into the scholarship fund, because the old system where we believed that we could put it on the person who's working on the work permit or the company to train the Caymanian hasn't worked. It is not going to work, because only a fool who comes from a bad set of circumstances to a better set of circumstances is going to engineer his own demise in better circumstances to go back to old standard of circumstances. So the government has to take the responsibility to provide the training opportunities. But then we need to have a way to monitor that the person is getting the on-the-job training, because you can't put the Caymanian there with the same competencies, right? But he's not getting the same work files. He's not being shown what it is he's supposed to do on an audit or whatever, right? It has to be a program that takes him up to that level.
Right. We have a couple of callers online, Mr. Miller. Mr. Ezzard Miller is our guest. As we go to our phones, welcome you on Talk Today.
Hello.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you today?
It is nice to listen to you as always.
Thank you.
And I, on a very important topic, of Caymanians and their place in the workforce and their opportunities. I'll make this short, but I can cite two things here. One, very encouraging. The other one, not so encouraging. This week, I think it was on Monday, it's a large development going on down on 7 Mile Beach Road, across from the Great House. So the news got out in the West Bay area there that they were going to be looking for common laborers and other people to work there. So I heard two young men discussing this, and the one said, no, 5 o'clock, I'm going to be on the road. I'm going to be one of the first ones there, for sure, because he said, I want to work. And I'm not on a job, and I want to get there, so I'll be up and on the road not later than 5:30. Later in the afternoon, the young man came by again, speaking with his friend. And he said, man, I was one. There was nobody else there before me, and I didn't get a job today. Now, I understand that there are subcontractors who recruit, but it was really painful to see someone who would be up that early, one of the first people on the site, and he did not get a job. Now, on the other hand, the good thing that I'd like to say, I know of another young man who's just in his early 20s, and, he's had some problems, nothing really serious, but, a few things but always seemed to be such a nice individual. He's elated, he's on cloud 9, because he has a job as a messenger in an office and going to be working in the mailroom. Never had a job in an office before, but is so enthusiastic. I think he's going to go really far. Mm-hmm. What bothers me is when a developer sees someone who shows up at 5 or shortly after 5 in the morning. Shouldn't there be something? I mean, a sensible person. This is a person with skills. He certainly can be a common laborer, but he does have extra skills. But you could tell the sheer disappointment, and I don't know how you get around that. When you go on the site, and I'm not anti-foreigner, I'm just saying that I'm also very much in favor of Caymanians not only getting jobs, but being seen on the job. If you go there and the majority are faces you don't recognize, these are not, certainly not indigenous Caymanians. And you wonder, is this somebody who has status, who's on a permit? What do? Do you get to these subcontractors or to the main contractor and say, listen, we expect that you're going to give Caymanians a first preference here.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
But the problem is that in the past, when one of the big contractors in your area, Mr. Jimbo Powell and them they were in charge. They hired people to work for them. That doesn't happen anymore in Cayman now. The big contractors only hire subcontractors, and whenever they bid on a job, they've already got them in. I mean, I got a couple of $1 million of work going on in the Rumpine area. I can't get a job for an outside to save my life because they already have their crew, and the traffic going east is almost as much as it's coming west now.
Wow. Mr. Miller, we do have another caller. Mm-hmm. Welcome, good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon. Mr. Miller, I just wanted one question I was set up before I ask you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Just a favor of it, really. I would like to know, I guess a lot of other people would like to know, just how elections are held in Cuba. Because there's always propaganda, communistic. You've been to Cuba, I'm sure, a lot. There's not these armed guards about the street and all that. Eh? And the way I understand it, every street has somebody in charge of that street. and it goes right up that way until you get the National Assembly at the top. They're put there by the people at the top. But I would like to find out if you can get some of the papers to publish it. All right?
All right, well, maybe good civics
That's
exercise.
all.
Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Miller.
Thank you. Always good to see how political systems work in other places.
Well, I mean, interestingly, voting is compulsory in Cuba. If you don't vote, you get fined. And they do have elections. What they don't have is 3-4 different parties, but you can have different people vying for the same position.
Right.
As far as I remember, the little area borough that my wife comes from, I think they've had 4 elections, three elections since we were married, and I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, they've changed their representative every time, and they usually have 3 or 4 people to vote for. Once you get elected, then you're part of, you join the party.
There's one party,
right? And they have, city kind of thing, municipalities, and then each well, I would call them states so people will understand, but I mean, you have different states. They have a kind of a national, a state assembly that kind of looks after that state, and then they send representatives to Havana to the National Assembly. And when you go down to the National Assembly and listen to them debate, it sounds just like us. They're arguing about roads, better health care, better schools, etc., better conditions for their people. So,
all right. I think we may have an answer online. Let's go to our phones. Good afternoon. Thank you for calling.
Hello again. Mr. Miller and Mr. Ebanks.
Yes, ma'am.
The thing is that when a contractor or a subcontractor advertises or publishes that they're going to be recruiting, certainly those companies should not have had all of their staff. One would have thought that the only reason for promoting or advertising that they're going to be hiring is because they are in need of more individuals. And so it bothers me. I can understand, Mr. Miller, you may know more about what is taking place at the moment in North Side, but it makes no sense to me to advertise. Publish this big thing. We are hiring starting Monday morning, and then you get there. Is the reason because they've already have their crew and they're looking for 4 more people, or is this a big recruitment effort that they're engaged in? That is really what bothers me, because I do understand that some of the subcontractors do have, particularly those who are basically constantly engaged in some kind of construction, they have their crew. But what do you tell young Caymanians in a case like this then? Anyway, I thought
But it is almost impossible now to come out of school and go and work for a big major contractor and develop a career. Either, when we used to work for school holidays, you run the wheelbarrow, and if you did that, you didn't turn it up, or you shoveled the gravel into the bucket, and if you learned how to fill the bucket properly and dump it in the mixer properly, then you graduate to driving the wheelbarrow, and if you did that okay, then you bring the blocks, one in each hand, and if you do that okay, then Miles said, okay, let me show you, after a couple of days or a couple of weeks, let me show you how to cut the cement with your trowel and put it on for the blocks, and he let you do that. Yeah. If you do that, a couple of weeks later, he might actually make you put the block down and show you how to line the block up and scrape the cement off the sides and one thing with his trowel. And that doesn't exist anymore. And it's, I don't know any general contractor now that actually hires skilled people to work for them. Most of it is done through subcontractors, and again, the subcontractors they're not doing a lot of hiring because they have people, and most of that so-called advertisement for hiring and everything is just a sham for immigration purposes.
For the work permit. Thanks very much. And I think this is where, as I was listening to the students here, and respectfully, even though these were students who probably would come back into that, so the professional sector, as some would call it, the same thing applies to the others who may,
Listen, right now, we have, in my view at least, the facilities that we could be graduating from Clifton or a high school. We're talking about don't want to build a new technical school, right? Electrical wiremen, the first level of your electrical license. Regular plumbers, right? Carpenters. Here's the problem. The industry itself maintains these regulations, right? For me to do a plumbing exam, I got to go and work for a plumber for 2 years, digging trenches. That's just ridiculous. We need to change those laws. Same thing with electrical. You got to do it. We'll take 10 years on paper from anybody from Timbuktu and give a master electrician license if they pass the exam. But we should be graduating students who want to get into those fields, and we should have after-school programs going on for those who are already there and want to learn the systems and get it, where when you graduate, you can go and say, listen, this is my license as a plumber. If you want to be a master plumber now, okay, I can understand you go and work as an ordinary plumber for 2 years, and then you go back to community college, the UCCI, or even back to the same high school if you wanted to, after classes, and you do the other exams then to become a master plumber. Same thing with electrical. You become what you call a wireman, I think is the term they use, right? But you should be coming out of high school with the ability to go to work as a wireman. You shouldn't have to go and cut wall for people for 2 years to do it. But the government needs to change its own regulations and not let the industry continue to keep Caymanians out of the system.
That's what is happening now. All right, let's pause and take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion with the Honourable Ezzard Miller. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
I love you. Get your Valentine's roses from Rosie's Roses and receive 10% off fresh flowers ordered by February 13th and be entered to win a $100 gift certificate for Mother's Day bouquets. Order online at rosiesroses.ky. Call 922-5273 or visit Rosie's Roses, Rankin Plaza, Eastern Avenue.
Is this thing working? Give me some sound over here.
Every Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. Radio Cayman's Super Jam Show, the #1 drive time entertainment show for your radio, featuring Will Sinatra.
Now, sound is everything.
Enjoy a mix of pop, hip-hop, reggae, and calypso, and an entertainment trivia section. The Super Jam Show is fueled by the proud sponsorship of the Cayman Islands Football Association. SIFA, building a better future for Cayman football.
Can you imagine where Cayman runs off renewable energy? We can. Learn how you can join government and be an energy advocate.
Visit the Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure's Facebook page to learn more. Tune in Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. Radio Cayman's Super Jam Show, the #1 drive time entertainment show on your radio, featuring Will Sinatra. Enjoy a mix of pop, hip-hop, dancehall, and soca.
The Super Jam Show is fueled by the proud sponsorship of Fitness Plus and Train with Dre.
Get top-rated personal training or build your very own home or office gym today.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us. And in the studio, our guest, the Honourable Ezzard Miller, the Honourable Opposition Leader, as we chatting. Now, you've been, I believe, front and centre, very public, as you shared, your mantra of the participatory democracy. Whereas elected member, you'll be their voice, but an extension of their hands and ears and the like. the recent discussions led by the Honourable Premier in the UK, accompanied by you and the others, I know you've shared repeatedly, even in this forum. We've had some people ask about some of the things that transpired. If you don't mind, and for those who know it and can repeat it verbatim, well, bear with us.
Well, the Premier suggested that, and he has said so publicly, that he's prepared to challenge the overreach of the House of Commons and the House of Lords for this open beneficial ownership registry. What comes at international standard, Cayman will subscribe to it tomorrow. But he was very concerned, and I join him in this concern, that method of changing laws in Cayman had never been done before. The executive cabinet of the UK would have, when we needed to do changes like we did with the hanging, capital punishment, and they sent down, I think it was never done by ordinary members of the House of Commons attaching some amendment to some bill. And his idea and his proposal was that he believed we need to seek some constitutional changes that would reduce the likelihood of that happening. The most obvious thing was to remove Section 125 of the Constitution, which says that England has the right to pass laws for and behalf of good governance, good order, and good governance in the Cayman Islands. If we didn't get it removed, and this is, we were not asking for things that does not already exist in other overseas territories who have similar constitutional relationships with the UK. So we were not asking for something that was absolutely going to give us independence, right? So then we said, if we can't get it removed, maybe we can get, to use the words of a former governor, Mr. Scott, some belts and braces around it, or some conditions under which it would be used, right? And one of those was that there had to basically be, a breakdown in the governance of systemic corruption, etc., and they would do, because they can come in and suspend the Constitution. Because remember that this is not our Constitution, this is the UK Constitution under which they expect the Cayman Islands government to be operated, to be run. Then we looked at the other areas. Section, I might have these numbers reversed, but Section 80, I think, is the one that where the governor could refuse to accept legislation passed by the duly elected members of the Legislative Assembly. So we would ask for that to be removed. If it wasn't removed, well, can we get some kind of, again, can we override his refusal with a unanimous vote in Parliament? Or a 2/3 vote in Parliament is normal, the standards for veto override, right? And then we wanted a similar thing with Section 81, which was where he can, in his office, today, the governor can sit in his office and write laws for the Cayman Islands, as long as he has the support of the Secretary of State on FCO. And there's nothing we can do about it. Mm-hmm. We can't go to the LA and rescind it or override it or amend it or anything else, right? With his permission. So we thought that those things were opportunities where we believe the UK government could interfere in our domestic operations. Now remember quite clearly that none of these proposals had anything to do with the reserve powers of the governor under the Constitution. I think it's Section 55 or something like that, right? We're not tampering with none of that. This is domestic policy we're talking about, right? And then we thought about one of the things that I suggested was, look, if we're going to make some constitutional changes, I have all said that this councillor appointment was not constitutional. So if we believe that we need this second level of cabinet officers, then let's do it properly and get an amendment to the Constitution to do it, right? And the Premier said, well, he thought that he believes quite strongly that the workload of the cabinet is such that it needs another minister. He and I argue back and forth on that, but then many of us, you have heard Dr. Macfield call up many days and chastise me because I'm calling our Legislative Assembly a Parliament, and he's right. There's not a Parliament now, right? Sir. So that was one of the things that, okay, if things are going good, we'll see if we can get that. So I think we got that. There were some other minor little clean-ups with the role of the Cabinet Secretary, which are neither here nor there in terms of none of this is it will cause us to go independent. They need to make that clear, right? Of course, my mantra of participation, I have insisted that I'm not going to support doing this the way we did the amendment to the Constitution for judges, and nobody knew nothing about it until it was done. It had to be public discourse on it. And every member of the Legislative Assembly now has had ample time to go to their constituents about this, because this has been going on now from May last year, right? And that there was going to be a debate in the Legislative Assembly, right? And and the Constitution says that there should be a referendum on anything that will cause us to get independence. Now, again, my mantra of participatory democracy leads me to want to hold a referendum on it and let the people say, once we know what it is that we're going to ask for, what we've negotiated and what we can get, right? But there's nothing, we got most of what we asked for. We didn't get Section 125, right? But they are looking to see if they would be willing to do some kind of side letter about under some kind of conditions. They understand our concern. And I think it was clear from the negotiations that they appreciated our concerns and they listened to our concerns, right? But as they said, we are the administrative power. We must have this authority. We need to use it, right? And you can't argue with that, right? But they would see if they could find a way, And as I understand it, where we are now is, as the Premier has stated in his public statement in the Legislative Assembly, we're expecting correspondence from the FCO that says these are the changes we've agreed to, and attached at the back of that is a draft order of how it would actually look within the Constitution. So,
and I do respect, sir. I mean, you are the opposition leader, but these are probably questions for the Premier and for the government. But any sort of timeline when possibly we may get that letter? Well,
I'm sure the Premier would like to have gotten it before now. But they do have a few little concerns up there that is kind of occupying their time.
Apparently.
Begins with a B and ends with a T.
Yeah,
right?
Apparently.
Then we won't say what it is, and also you could add CR onto that, and that would end with an S. But I think the person to answer this really is the Premier, but my understanding is that he would have liked to have gotten it done by when we launch the 60-year celebration of our first Constitution, which I believe he planned sometime around June or July.
July-ish.
But,
Well, see, this is where when I said earlier, our people, despite what we say, we like politics. We like our politicians.
No. And listen, you can't get around politics. Now, politics is your everyday life.
Yeah, man.
Whether the politics are in the household, in the job, in the government, in the church, the politics is everywhere you go.
And this is why, when you come on, I think you give us an education, but also an encouragement. And I was sharing earlier that you get more young.
And I need to re-emphasize that I did the last day. There are still those people out there who are trying to accuse the Premier of wanting to negotiate a third term for himself. And in fairness to the Premier, he sat on my left, right here in this room on For the Record show, and he and I both stated quite clearly that extending the terms for the Premier was not on the agenda for renegotiation of the Constitution. It was not in the proposal. It was not discussed.
Right. Out of fear of people accuse me of being political, and especially being supportive of the government, I don't think a term limit on Premier in this country at this time was advisable in our constitution. That's just me. A little bit I understand about it. When you got a good person, why not let the people decide?
You can't have true democracy if you are going to interrupt the will of the people by...
Right.
I have supported it for a couple of reasons. It's a good thing if you got a bad one, right? And if you got a good one, you can always find out a good one. And there is no time limit on the Legislative Assembly.
But that's
right?
it.
So they because the real power as such is in the executive, because that's who's running the country and that's where the decisions is made in terms of the allocation of the resources and what the policies in government would be, and to a large extent what the legislation is going to be. As the opposition, I believe we have a responsibility, and this opposition is certainly committed to that, to prod the government to do things that they are not doing through private members' motions, etc., and public discourse on shows like this, to say, well, the government really needs to fix the garbage problem.
Right.
Right?
I mean, we get a number of people, some indifferent, some very adamant, one way or the other. That's just a recent sort of adoption of the caucus amongst the government, the ruling government, to have a meeting and to hash out things, and then I believe they go to cabinet. But this is the position. Respectfully?
Well, that is not unusual. I think, I believe, the caucus here may be more operationally involved in the governance. But it is standard procedures in the Westminster form government that the policy decisions, right, are made at the caucus level so that you keep your people in line, and the other people's representatives who are not in cabinet have an opportunity to contribute to the discussion and represent their people in it. And also, any good premier is going to keep his people informed so that when he gets down to the LA, he don't have the whip doesn't have too much of a whipping to do to get people in line, because they're bought into it earlier.
Right. But the party whip is a member of the party. Right.
In this case, again, it's a little bit of I don't want to use that B word, bruising of the system. But normally, the party whip is a member of the party. But we have a coalition government, and it is my understanding that one of the people who are part of the coalition and not a member of the party is their whip.
Right.
And so, I mean, it's not, once the group that is working together and whatever glue holds the coalition together accepts that this person is going to be the person who is going to nudge me to support the government, that's fine.
In the Westminster model that we follow, the caucus, is it, do you understand, normally only in attendance the elected people, or can we have other party people?
As far as I know, it is usually only elected members of the party. And I believe that, and again, I say this subject to correction, but I think a couple of years ago we had a coalition between the Conservatives and the Lem Dibs in the UK. I believe that they caucus separately. The Lem Dim people had their own caucus and the Conservatives had their own caucus. And when they came together in a form that said, listen, I want this and you want that, right? Can we come together and agree that this is what we're going to do,
But these were the elected
as far as I know, they were
MPs,
they were the elected MPs and not people who... There might have been some party machinery people there, I don't know, who were involved in the administration of the party and stuff like that. Right. But I think it would be unusual to have outside people who are not,
elected. Because we've had representation from people who were expressed concern that in our case, as we are developing the party system, that may be what transpires from time to time.
Well, like I say, I think here the caucus seems to be a lot more operational, and indications are, right, and I'm not there, so I don't know, that the actual paper that goes to cabinet goes to caucus for caucus approval before it's presented to cabinet. That would be unusual, because normally the executive is the one who, once the party group has agreed on the policy and the solution that we're going to go forward, it is usually left to the civil servants and the ministers to craft how that is going to be done.
Okay. Well, with that, I believe we have our headline news just about to It'll be sort of downloaded, uploaded, shared. We're going to pause and take a break, go to our news headlines. When we come back, we invite you to be, not only tuned in, but share with us. 949-8837 or 1-800-534-8255. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
The National Roads Authority, NRA, will be continuing road works on Printers Way from Shedden Road to Thomas Russell Avenue as part of the larger Elgin Avenue and Crew Road extension project. Works are scheduled to continue through tomorrow between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. each day. Printers Way will be open to local access only during this time. Drivers are asked to keep watch for traffic diversions and to drive with caution to ensure their safety and that of the work crews. In news elsewhere, officials in Rio de Janeiro say torrential downpours and strong winds have killed at least 5 people and left a trail of destruction. The press office of the Rio de Janeiro Fire Department announced the death toll Thursday. Rio's mayor, Marcelo Crivella, decreed 3 days of mourning for the victims. The new Democratic-controlled House is looking at proposals to compel presidents and presidential candidates to make public years of their tax returns. But the burning question is what Democrats might do immediately to get such files from U.S. President Donald Trump. That goal has been high on their list of priorities since they won control of the House, but asking for Trump's returns is likely to set off a huge legal battle with his administration. The issue will come to the fore in an oversight hearing on Thursday. Last year's shooting at a Florida high school sparked a movement among a younger generation angered by gun violence and set the stage for a significant shift in America's gun politics. Thousands of student protesters took to the streets and inspired hashtags such as Never Again and Enough. They also mobilized to register a new generation of voters. Candidates were emboldened, too. Many of them confronted the issue in last year's elections and were rewarded with victory over incumbents supported by the National Rifle Association. That helped Democrats take back control of the House. Those are your latest updates here on Radio Cayman. I'm Shanda Gallego.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Love is in the air everywhere you look around at the Advanced Automotive Showroom this Valentine's Day. Fall in love all over again with one of our brand new 2019 Chevrolets. Take home the stunning Trax Midnight compact SUV or let your heart skip a beat while driving the beautiful Equinox. Test drive the stylish Traverse and let Advanced Automotive play matchmaker this Valentine's Day. Visit the showroom on Owen Roberts Drive or visit advancedchevrolet.com to fall in love all over again.
Whether you're planning your child's next birthday party or simply looking for a social night out, look no further than Kingpin Bowling at King Sports Center.
With a range of packages and specials for bowling parties, socials, and corporate team building, Kingpin Bowling offers what no one else can. The only bowling alley in Cayman. And it's indoor fun, which means no mosquitoes, AC, and don't forget about their bowling bar. Book your bowling lanes today. Call 946-BOWL. That's 946-2495. Email kingpinbowling@candw.ky. For more information, visit their website, www.kingsportscenter.com.
King Sports Center, providing your fitness, recreation, and relaxation needs.
I love you. Get your Valentine's roses from Rosie's Roses and receive 10% off fresh flowers ordered by February 13th and be entered to win a $100 gift certificate for Mother's Day bouquets. Order online at rosiesroses.ky. Call 922-5273 or visit Rosie's Roses, Rankin Plaza, Eastern Avenue.
Hello, I'm Joseph Woods, the Acting Port Director. Our port facility is the hub of the Cayman Islands commerce and economic activity, handling $658 million in imported goods annually. From groceries to construction materials, all sectors of our economy depend on the port. But it is now 40 years old. Its infrastructure is degrading, and we feel the strain from insufficient space for both cargo and cruise operations. The time is now. A new expanded port facility is needed to allow both cargo and cruise to operate efficiently and to support support our island's continued growth and development. Support the port, support our tourism, support Cayman's continued growth and development.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. In the studio, Honorable Ezzard Miller sits with us as our guest and shares. Now, as you were relaying earlier, the whole notion that within the elected annals of our assemblies, the fact that hopefully more of us get, not just because of the access, relatively speaking, to come and listen to the proceedings, but develop a strong interest as parliamentarians, equally as personnel who can serve, within. It's a great way to serve a nation, especially in a non-war time.
And one of the things that I want to encourage, and again, this has been my modus operandi from the time I got elected. I want to see more professionals. I want to see more young professionals get involved in the political arena, and I want to encourage young Caymanians to pick up the political mantra. And one of the things that I'm trying to do is the Premier invited me to his annual cocktail party, the social that he has for all the Caymanian students in the UK. And it was a wonderful event. We have some bright people out there who are studying to come back to Cayman. And he invited me. So he poked a little fun at me and said, he's taking a big risk politically by inviting the leader of the opposition to say a few words. And with all of that, I take that in stride.
Oh, well, that's par for the course, huh?
Yeah. So I said, one thing about the Premier knows about Ezzard Miller is when it comes to Cayman, there's not a whole pile of difference between the love for Cayman and Caymanians that we both share. So you're not got to worry about me being out in left field or right field and those things. And talking just generally, over the food and drinks, I was really impressed by the desire of these young people to want to interact and want to know more about Cayman. So I've set up an Instagram and a Facebook page, and somebody's helping me with it, and where I can communicate with them, and they can email me. The first thing I'm sending them is the outline for the development plan, because after all, this development plan is their future we're planning. I am on the downside of the curve, of the twilight, right? And the response was surprising in how much interest they showed in it, and how much they wanted to know about what was going on in Cayman. The same constitutional things, many of them wanted to know, well, what is this all about, Yeah. And when you take the time to listen, really listen to what they're saying, it's very informative, very informative. And I want to see, in the 80s and 90s, I brought a lot of young Caymanians out into the political field, putting them on boards, got them involved and stuff like that. And, one of the best ways to encourage our Caymanians, our educated, qualified Caymanians, to help in the governance of the country is put them on boards. But we've got to change the system by which we appoint boards. You can't rely on the political directorate to simply recommend people for boards who support them. The mantra has always been that, well, I need to put people there that are going to support my line. No. They have a responsibility to implement the policy that you put there. And I found when I put people like Addington Powell and Dr. Marion and people like those of that stature on the first HSA board, right? I could rely on them to challenge me if I tried to do what they regarded as foolishness. When you put people here who simply want to hear what you want to say and want to tell you back what you want to hear because they want to remain on the board. And you'll see the recent release by the Auditor General and the variations in what board people are being paid. But there is the greatest opportunity for us to take Caymanians between the age of, well, I don't have any particular age, but particularly under the age of 35. Get them involved in the governance of the country. Give them the opportunity to sit on things like the Airport Authority Board, the Port Authority Board. Let them learn how government works, Put them on obvious. And I have been advocating for quite some time that the government should simply advertise in the media. Mm-hmm. We need to promote a particular board. This is the responsibility of the board, right, as laid out in the law. This is the kind of competencies we're kind of looking for. This is the compensation package, right? If you're interested, contact us, right? We have a packet prepared for you, which should be a 3-ring binder of the law, the regulations, any of the established board procedures, a series of board meeting minutes that people can read and delve into and develop a desire to serve on this particular board. Right. Finally, I got the Honourable Franz Manderson and the former Governor Kilpatrick to advertise for the board for the conditional release thing. And he came back to me and said, man, I was surprised, I was shocked at the caliber and the quantity of people who are willing to serve, right? And unless we start to provide these kind of avenues for Caymanians to get involved in the whole governance of our country, we're missing a whole pile. And what we're creating is a vacuum downstream when people would experience, like myself and others, depart from the scene. And in all likelihood, right, the wrong people go fill the vacuum. But we should use the opportunity on boards, on committees, I mean, why don't we have a series of we should have right now a series of committees to do this, fill in this planning framework. Not just the technocrats in planning, but we should have people in the Caymanians who work in the tourism industry, Caymanians who work in the financial industry, Caymanians who work in the construction industry, Caymanians who work in commerce, Caymanians who, and these should be looking at their area, right? Yeah. How should this development plan represent my aspirations for the future? Because it's only when we get that kind, and we don't need to make it be like the Tower of Babylon, we're not speaking different languages, right? We're all speaking English or Caymanese or West Bayese or North Sideese, right? And maybe some modern Downese. But the technical people then should be able to take those inputs, right? And massage it into a proper plan. And you should be able to go back to those same committees and say, okay, you said that in the committee from Northside, well, we really don't want to see no 300-room hotel built in Northside. What we would like to see is bed and breakfast, which Northsiders can develop themselves and be a part of the ownership in the tourism industry, right? So you build that into the plan, and you allocate some areas for that to be done, right? And some of those areas will include existing facilities and houses that can be converted. And you get them to buy into it, right? Because, again, I get back to my grandmother always told me, you get 2 heads are better than one. If it even cow heads, you get more meat, right? The more people we get involved in this process, the more likelihood we are likely to have a physical development plan, 1, that the community will accept, and 2, that the community is going to support, and 3, that the community is going to enforce, right? But that last one, is the one that most politicians are afraid of.
Well, respectfully, Mr. Miller, I mean, we've had some feedback, some publicly when the initial survey deadline was looming. A few callers call and say, but if I didn't know about it, I wouldn't know, but it's only online, so that has been extended some would share, but still.
I want, and I've advocated that we need to have a series of district meetings, town hall meetings, right? Mm-hmm. But again, I would also like to see the creation of these committees. And the other thing I'd like to see is, because the final arbiters of this plan is going to be Legislative Assembly. So let's set up a select committee of the Legislative Assembly. Let the Legislative Assembly conduct some hearings. Let people come in and talk about the kind of things that they want to see in the plan, so that we understand, get the chairman of all of these little committees that we come in to come in and talk to us about why we want to see it done this way, you know?
Yeah. Because and I say limited, because we have not, maybe we should deliberately, we have not set out to inquire with anybody specific about the plan. So the feedback that we receive here is that the perception is twofold. One, it's driven heavily by the political influence, and second, and perhaps even more so, that the moneyed developer is driving this to.
And you know, the when you hear people talk about, well, we haven't amended the development plan. The problem is we have amended the development plan so many times that it no longer represents a development plan that we had passed in. Not the last time was 97. Because again, we have to move away from this system we have now that currently abodes in this country. A developer or an investor comes to the Cayman Islands and sees an opportunity to build a hotel or to build condos and make some money, right? And then he hears that the guy down the road got $30 million in concessions, right? And I'm going to build 2 stories more than him, so I should be able to get $50 million in concessions. So we allow each developer to come and negotiate their deal, right? That is too much room and too much possibility for corruptibility, right? What we need is what our forefathers did. In the infancy of our tourism industry, our forefathers created the Hotel Age Law, which specified what you would get if you came to the Cayman Islands to build a hotel, right? And it varied depending on the areas that you were in. And I have suggested this to the minister when he came to Frank Sound, not the North Side, to have his joint meeting for East End and North Side, because they didn't have enough respect for us to have 2 separate meetings. That what we need to do is we need to stop this business of every developer coming here and cutting a deal with the politicians. And again, it should never be, the politicians should never be at the negotiating table. The politicians should be the people that the technocrats come back to, and the politicians can veto what has been negotiating. Negotiation 101, you must always be able to pull the bogey if things not going right, that I have to go talk to my boss. If your boss is at the table negotiating, he can't say that, old boy. He'll look at him and say, but you're the boss, you can make the decision right here now. Right? So we need to put in legislation what you will get as an investor coming to the Cayman Islands in the story. And we need to then also put in the legislation and in the regulations and in the customs law, if it's a matter of due to concessions, it must be based on a material list. If you're building 10 apartments and you're getting concessions and you got 1 window in each apartment, well, you can only get 10 windows. You can't get 50 windows, right? Right? If your plan says, structural plan says, I'm going to need 10 tons of steel, you can't get 50 tons of steel, which you can use on different projects, right? And that list should be part of the contractual agreement with the government under the legislation and the regulations, and that's handed to customs. So every time you bring in 1 window, they take off 1. When you get to 10, you bring 11, it's full duty.
Now, a concern too that we've had from a few people in relation to planning and development. Specifically, the one that was referenced was a project on Linford Pearson. I call it Crew Road, but the new bypass there. This was the story that was given to us. Property is up for rezoning, but it's simultaneously so being advertised for sale. This project is going to be on houses, apartments, whatever it is. Plan permission hasn't been had.
Mm-hmm.
The zoning hasn't been approved as yet, but the developer is selling units. Same with the project along West Bay Road, 7 Mile Beach.
Mm-hmm. And they're selling them on paper plans, and I hope they're putting them on an escrow.
Well, that wasn't even the issue, but the concern, as you recognize.
But here's the other problem, right? And why we need to stop amending the development plan to suit individual investors. Because here's what they do. Come here, and they buy a piece of land that is zoned agricultural residential, 1 house per acre, from a Caymanian. And they Jew him down in price, but reduce the price as much as they can. As soon as they get ownership, they go to government and says, listen, well, I'd like to put up a hotel here. So I need you to take this to the highest value for real estate, which is hotel resort. Highest density, highest value. So they automatically get, once we come down to the LA and we rezone it for them, they get all those capital gains, which in some cases can quadruple the value of the land. Some of them who speculate, they come in and get it changed, and then they try to sell the project, the thing. Famous one in my constituency, right? Wooden chips and what, man? But again, you see, we have to be honest with our citizenry, right? And there's certain things I believe that we should reserve for Caymanians to be involved in as entrepreneurs. And if a developer wants to come in and build that, there's no concessions to get. Because any developer, in my view, that comes to the Cayman Islands, and he needs the government to invest 25-30% of the value of the cost of his project for him to make it viable, we don't need it. We can use them public funds to do something else. Because everybody gives me this argument. Well, Ezzard, if we don't get the development, we not get the fees either. Granted, I agree that. But if we don't get the development, we're not going to get the infrastructure load either. So we don't have to find funds from other source because they didn't pay their infrastructure fees or their planning fees or their import duty, which the government can then use to upgrade the infrastructure to accommodate their project. But what we do is we give them the concessions because otherwise they mightn't get the project. Then when they overload the infrastructure, we tax somebody else to fix the infrastructure for them, and they've already cashed out their money and they're gone.
With the whole planning review, the development, some have shared, and I think you've championed this, that concessions should be across the board. Not only how you share, but
it should be in law, and it should be available, first of all, to Caymanians, and secondly, to investors.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't mean a different.
So is it then a practice, as we understand, that...
And one of the other things that was proposed for the tourism plan, which quite frankly in its present format is not what the paper is written on, because there's not really no plan. It's just a bunch of words put together. Was that in order to assist people, particularly small businesses going to bread and breakfast, we need a tourism development fund, to which some of the fees that we are now giving away could be put in. Collect the fees and put them in a development fund which will allow Caymanians to develop bread and breakfasts, etc., to be part of the industry. You see? Because we got to start thinking outside the box, because it is very difficult. Now, when I resigned from government in 1979, having put in my 6 years that I was bonded to work for government, but bond wasn't a bad thing because it would guarantee the job. And I wanted to go out and hang up my own shingle. It was easy to do. Right? So I went out and opened my own pharmacy and did well, and opened the medical supply stores and a surgical supply stores and a medical and surgical center and all these kinds. But today, to get financing, you almost have to prove to the bank that you don't need it.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a situation you go in and then saying, being able to clearly demonstrate your need, that you will get it.
Well, even on that point, I mean, there are Caymanians who have shared that they've gone to the bank. They satisfy the criteria to have a track record. They now want to borrow more to expand, maybe do more hotels, more condos, more residential, whatever it is. And they say, well, the bank allegedly has claimed, well, we don't like to expose ourselves to one, borrower for more than X.
And I actually know what happened to me. I did two small development projects, bought property to do a third one, assumed that the bank would continue to do the financing that they did. And after I bought the property, make me believe that it was all available, they decided, well, we're not financing any more of those things right now.
Yeah.
You qualify, irrespective of my track record of having paid back their loan before everything else, right?
Yeah.
But
that's something that struck me. Someone reminded me of that earlier as well. You got a collateral, can service the debt, has a track record. You just want to use,
Well, one of the things that I have always said is that we need to allow Caymanian pensioners to use their money for their own good at times. And part of what I believe we should be using it for is depositing in banks at fixed deposits, right, for long periods of time, 30, 35 years, because somebody's starting to work today, their pension money is long-term money, right? Because the problem we have now is the banks don't have any long-term money, right? And keep the interest rates low so that Caymanians, for first-time homeowners, etc., like that. But that doesn't seem to for some reason, nobody seems to want to change the pension legislation to say that the money must be used locally. We're probably the only country in the world that I'm aware of, in a free country, in a free world, where we force our people to pay a pension, right? But it can be invested locally to their benefit.
Now, there are those who would tell us, well, legally it can be, we just need the financial vehicles to do so. I think I'm splitting hairs, huh?
Well, that's the same thing. It can't be done.
All right. Well, Mr. Miller, always a pleasure to join. You got things in Northside?
Yeah, well, I only got two announcements. One, we're getting our senior citizen, or choose the senior citizen. By March, we'll have that back on track where it'll be once a week. Had been cut down to once a month, so I'm reorganizing it, and it'll be every Tuesday. Starting the 1st of March. And on the 23rd of February, we're having a big senior night. We did the Cayman Thanksgiving. I did a dinner there where I brought the students and senior citizens together, and everybody had a wonderful time. So this time we'll have three groups we hope to have. We're going to have senior citizens, we're going to have young adults. I'm trying to get some of the single parents to come in, and hope that the senior citizens can give them the kind of encouragement that they need, that they can do this, right? Because most of these senior citizens did it as single parents because the men were out to sea, right? So they know how to do it. And then we're bringing in two classes from the school, students, and we'll spread them around. And the governor and his wife have agreed to come. And we're going to play some bingo, eat some good food, and talk about people and old times, right? I mean, that's a Caymanian event, right? Eating food and talking about people,
Well, as I ran the Travis song, old men sit and talk about the weather, old women sit and talk about old men.
Right, yeah. So, I'm expecting, we're catering for 75 people, so we're expecting a good turnout, Well, we hope to have some decent prizes for the bingo, and bingo is one of those social games that can, but we also going to want some conversation taking place around the various tables. And because all this is being organized by me to try and get the knowledge, the experiences of our senior citizens and the values, morals and ethics of our senior citizens and the Christians' belief passed down to the young people.
Yeah.
And we just can't leave it to the church. There are many other areas that we can teach these. Yesterday we had the classes. We did a lunch, and it was a catered lunch. They were served with hot food. Everybody had knife and forks, and they understood why the knife and again, part of that whole etiquette that we learned growing up around the dining room table.
Yeah, very crucial for the community to be invested in the community. As well, it's always a pleasure to have you on.
Same here. And thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure, man.
And as I told you earlier, I'll be here first Thursday and third Thursday.
First Thursday and third Thursday.
Thank you,
So
sir.
I see we can make a note to make sure you have some tea.
Coffee, man. I'm a chisel. Coffee.
All right. Well, you enjoy your afternoon.
Yes, sir.
And we shall chat with you as soon as we can, sir. And to our listeners, thank you so much for being in prayer for the people in leadership, in particularly, our political leaders. And as Mr. Miller shared, you're a young Caymanian. Get your skill set in order and consider strongly becoming actively involved in our political, scene. Don't know how the country can grow if we are helping to direct it. Please join me start in the morning for the record. Come back for more talk today right after the midday news and midday meditation. Stay tuned for all of the programming. You got a special request? Call. You want to hear a nice familiar voice, a little bit different? You want to know who it is? Well, you got to call and see who answers, and make a request. And of course, until tomorrow, be blessed.